Hey there, Horse Center fans. Matt and I are back with another edition of your favorite horse racing show. Matt, what do we have for him this week? I think it might involve the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, I think so, Brian. We've got updates on our picks with the late scratch of Omaha Beach from the race last night, and we take a look at some of the big races and top name horses going on the undercards on Friday and Saturday.
That's right. Omaha Beach is out. Matt and I change our bets just a little bit. We also give our top picks in the Kentucky Oaks, the Turf Classic, the Churchill Downs Sprint. Talk about much more of big races this week, all on HorseCenter. Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the great pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Shipman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm good, Brian. And hey, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water and you had all your picks and the field was set, boy, things sure changed quickly on the Derby scene last night.
Yeah, Matt, that's true. You were looking forward to betting him. I was looking forward to beating him. But of course, we all wish Omaha Beach were 100% healthy and in the race. The latest is that Omaha Beach will have throat surgery, and he'll be back this summer out in California in Richard Mandela's barn. So good news that he didn't run with the ailment. That's the positive we can take out of this. But yeah, the favorites out of the Kentucky Derby. Hey, Matt, we've been talking about this race now for more than 6 months. We're finally here. It's almost Oaks Day, and let's just do our top picks. We are going to do a little house cleaning too, Matt, with that big change and possibly another change with Heichelt being on the fence right now with a foot abscess. We are going to give our bets out, or our revised bets out again in this show. But first, let's talk about our top picks in the 2019 Kentucky Derby. Matt, here it is. I'll let you go first.
Okay, Brian. Well, as you alluded to with the scratch of Omaha Beach, who, I was kind of all in on. I was floundering around a bit last night to make my top 4 final picks for the Derby, and okay, I've got them. My top pick now is Tacitus. I've liked him. I've liked him all along this spring, and we talked about it before. Big horse, doesn't mind getting bounced around. Bill Mott, he's got a lot of great qualities that will serve him well in the Derby. So Tacitus is my top pick. Second, I'm going with Code of Honor. Third, I'm going with By My Standards. And fourth, I'm bucking the trends. I'm putting in War of Will. And you might say, Matt, you got no Bafferts in your top 4? Well, no, I don't. But basically because I couldn't pick one of them out of the 3. So I decided to leave them out completely.
All right, Matt. Well, the good news is you have some long shots now. I was really looking forward to calling you a chalk-eating weasel on the favorite again, but you're with me now. You're with me. Tacitus is also my pick. I think this is a great spot for him. We are talking about quite a bit of rain over the next 2 days, and maybe quite a bit of rain, unfortunately, on Kentucky Derby Day, Matt. So I think that does come into play. We have to look at possibly a sloppy track again this year. Tacitus probably would still be my top pick, but I might like him just a hair less as my top pick. I was thinking we'd get 10-1 with Omaha Beach in here. Maybe now he's more 7-8-1. We'll see. I do like the Bafferts. I think Bafferts are the ones that Tacitus has to beat. Game Winner is my number 2. He's looked just a picture of health. He looks wonderful since he's got here. I like the post. He's now swinging over to the 15 hole with Omaha Beach being out, which is the first spot in that auxiliary gate. Code of Honor is my top long shot still, although I'm going to talk about another long shot that's quickly moving up my list. And Improbable. I still like Improbable. I don't think he ran his very best yet in Arkansas. I do think he likes Churchill Downs. he handled the slop well enough in Arkansas, although I think he was struggling just a little bit. If he runs an improved race, I expect him to be right there. That means I don't have Roadster in. I'm scared of him. By my standards is another long shot I like. Win, win, win is another long shot I like, Matt. And then Spin Off. I'll tell you what, we're talking about a possible sloppy track. I think War will make sense on a sloppy track. He's run well at Churchill Downs on a sloppy track, but I love what I see from two things from Spin Off. I always thought the potential was there. His first two races were good, but Spin Off has looked excellent since he's got here. Very impressive horse, and he is bred for slop on both sides. If it is a sloppy track, watch out for Spin Off.
So give us your top four, Brian.
My top four is Tacitus, Game Winner, Code of Honor, Improbable. If it's a sloppy track, Spin Off moves up that list. Matt, let's get into our changes, though. I'm going to have you tell us. You had more changes in your wagers. Why don't you go ahead with that real quick?
Yeah, and I've gotten a lot of requests on Twitter, on email, all over the place for our updated picks. So we'll give them to you now. My new Oaks Derby Daily Double is basically structured the way it was. I'm going to stick with those same 6 horses from the Oaks in the Daily Double, but instead this time I'm going to use 2 horses in the Derby. I'm going to use my top 2, Tacitus and Code of Honor, with those 6 horses from the Oaks.
Strange, we're on the same horses now, Matt. Yeah, and my changes, which will be up on the screen here, were limited. I wasn't using Omaha Beach as one of my top horses, but I was using him quite a bit. I certainly recognized his chance to run well in here. I'm just going to replace Omaha Beach with Spin Off. Again, I talked about it a little bit. I think Spin Off is primed to run a good race for Todd Pletcher. You will note that there was a little change in my trifecta, too, in the 3rd spot. Instead of using Long Range Toddy in my 3rd spot as a long shot, I am using Maximum Security just in case he holds on a little bit better than I originally thought with the quality speed of Omaha Beach out. Matt, Bodie Express, neither of us like Bodie Express in here, but he does have the potential to add some speed again back into the race lost by Omaha Beach.
Yeah, and so once again, we have a maiden in the Kentucky Derby with Bodie Express. So my trifecta plays obviously change a lot because I had keyed Omaha Beach in all of the positions. So instead, I have come up with just one ticket, and it is a ticket with Tacitus and Code of Honor on top in the top spot, with and it's right up on the screen here, folks, with 11 horses in the 2nd spot and 11 horses in the 3rd spot. That will come for 50 cents. That will come to a total of $90.
Yeah, Matt, we did get some questions. A lot of people questioned our mathematics skills because they didn't understand how we were using 11 horses or so on in spots, but we weren't multiplying by 11 in that spot. You got to remember you need to subtract 1 horse as you go down your trifecta list, because obviously a horse can't run 1st and 2nd. So if Matt's using 11 horses in the 2nd spot, Tacitus and Code of Honor are 2 of those 11. You need to multiply by 10 in that spot, and then only by 9 in the 3rd spot. All right, Matt. That's our Derby top picks. Again, Matt and I are excited to see the race, whether it's a fast track, a sloppy track, or somewhere in between. This is the race that everyone wants to win, and your hosts here at HorseCenter can't wait to watch it and wager on it. We wish you all good luck. But Matt, there's other big races this weekend, most notably the Kentucky Oaks on Friday, the Phillies going for the Lilies. It's the female version of the Kentucky Derby, if you will. And I think we have a pretty big favorite in Bellafina, but I have a feeling neither of us are going to put her in the top spot.
That is correct. I am not using Bellafina. I am not putting her in my top 4. My top 4 turn out to be, and I'm going to put on top, Street Band from Larry Jones. He is kind of Mr. Kentucky Oaks, going for his 4th win of Lilies And Street Band is a horse that's getting better in here. I'm going with prices in here, Brian. Right below Street Band, I'm going to use Chocolate Kisses in the race. I love Chocolate Kisses performance in the Honeybee. I picked Chocolate Kisses in the Ashland, but she got stuck on that speed favoring track. So I'm going to go one more time with Chocolate Kisses. Also, Champagne Anyone, which is certainly the maybe the Wise Gal horse instead of Wise Guy horse, the Wise Gal horse in the Lilies. So much attention, so many people impressed with what they're seeing from Champagne Anyone. And I am also going to use my fourth one is Lady Apple from the Steve Asmussen barn. I like what I saw from her in the fantasy. I moved Restless Rider down my list a little bit because she drew out in the 14 hole.
Fair enough, Matt. Yeah, I was wondering about Restless Rider because I know you had talked about it earlier. Okay. And you know what? I think whoever I'm saying looks really good out here, you say becomes the wise guy horse. I don't know if you're calling me a wise guy necessarily. I did grow up in Jersey, so maybe there's something to it. Anyway, Matt, yeah, I like Champagne Anyone. She's my top pick. She's been getting better. She has experience over the Churchill Downs track. Really like how she looks for trainer Ian Wilkes. I think she's just flourishing at the perfect time. We are projecting, no matter what the track is like, Matt and I are both projecting a very fast pace in here. And I think that does make the heavy favorite Bellafina more vulnerable. Not that she's a need the lead type of filly, but she wants to be close. And if that pace is too fast, I do think it hurts her a little bit. And if there's more rain, who knows? She's used to those fast California tracks. So Champagne Anyone's my top pick because of all the respect I have for Bellafina, though she's going to be in my 2 spot. I do like Matt's long shot as well, Chocolate Kisses, and mainly because if this pace is as fast as it looks on paper, Chocolate Kisses is one of the most likely horses to really be running late. So I have her in the 3rd spot. I like what I see from Lady Apple, too. She's not as physically impressive, surely, as Champagne Anyone, but the daughter of Curlin looks to be getting better with every start for trainer Steve Asmussen. And she's a cute little filly out there on the track. I think she's able to possibly win the whole thing in the Kentucky Oaks. You can tell from our picks or our wagers in our double and our pick 3 that these were the fillies we like. Neither Matt or I would be disappointed if the favorite got beat in the Kentucky Oaks.
Yeah, Brian, that's for sure.
We're going to swing back to Saturday, Matt, because I think the 3rd biggest race of the weekend is the Turf Classic, the Old Forester Turf Classic. Old Forester makes a nice bourbon, by the way, Matt, and they're sponsoring the Turf Classic this year. There will be another heavy favorite, just like Bellafina. This one is Bricks and Mortar, and he's trained by Chad Brown, and together the pair is off to a wonderful start, even late last year. And already this year.
Yeah, that's for sure. Bricks and Mortar, is rated as the number 1 top thoroughbred by many experts in the country, and he has come out terrifically this year. Wins on fast track. He can win on a turf course with moisture in it, which is likely. Big speed figures in his victories in here. Morning line says 5-2. I don't know. I think he's going to be a lot less than that. But you know what, Brian? He's got a long layoff in his past, and I don't know. To me, that puts a little question mark in my mind. How many races can he string together? Maybe he's completely over the problems that he had in the past, and I hope so. But at a really short price, there are some other interesting horses in the field. Chad Brown has 2 others in there in Ticonderoga and Raging Bull. I like Raging Bull in there. It's got a Grade 1, Grade 2, Grade 3 race victories recently. on yielding, on good, on firm turf. I like his versatility in there. And another horse to round out my top 4 in there is Synchrony. Putting blinkers on for Michael Stidham's got some triple-digit buyer speed figures in recent races, but I'm going to pick Raging Bull to pull the upset in the Turf Classic.
All right, Matt. You might have the 4 favorites, but you certainly don't have the big favorite on top. Yeah, I think 5-2 is way off. I think he'll be closer to even money in this Turf Classic. And I tell you what, if he wins the race, he really has a stranglehold over the male turf horse division. That's how good he's been going back to last December, which doesn't really count. But of course, the Pegasus World Cup, and then that nice race down in New Orleans. Now, I am a little bit more hesitant with him, just like you, but for a different reason. If it really is wet, if we do get a lot of rain the next few days, like they're talking about, his only race on an off turf was run very fast. That was the Turf Classic down at Gulfstream. So I think it might be a far different kind of wet turf than we see here. That's one reason to pick against him. I think he is the best horse in the race, and I'm going to put him in the top spot. But I do think he's vulnerable in here. And some of the same horses you mentioned, Raging Bull and Ticonderoga, I both have a little better feeling for on a wet turf. They're very good horses also from Chad Brown. So I could see Chad Brown upsetting his big horse with either Raging Bull, who I have in the 2 spot, Ticonderoga, who I've had in the 3 spot. And then I tell you what, my long shot in here, March to the Arch, if he's 20-1, take a long look at March to the Arch. He's a son of Arch. I'm hoping he likes wet turf. His only race was kind of at the end of a long form cycle on wet turf, that is, and he didn't run his best, but I'm hoping he handles it. Son of Arch, I have a feeling he should. I really liked his return race as a newly turned 4-year-old at Tampa Bay Downs for trainer Mark Cassie, and I think he could be the horse to upset the Brown apple cart in here. So he'll round out my top 4 in the Turf Classic. Another big race for older males, Matt, the same day, of course, is the Churchill Downs. This 7 furlong sprint is usually one of my favorite races of the first half of the year. And today's field looks like Saturday's field looks no different to me. A lot of interesting horses, both speed and ralliers. Unfortunately, a 2-time winner and a real favorite, the 7-year-old gelding Limousine Liberal, who would have been one of the horses to beat, had a severe injury today. He is going to be fine. The 7-year-old gelding will survive the injury, but his career is over. So now we're looking at one less in the Churchill Downs.
That's tough news. I know Limousine Liberal has been one of your favorites, Brian, for the last few years. But good news that he'll recover, and no doubt at this point in his career go on to a nice retirement. But yeah, it's an interesting field. It's got there's lots of speed in there. There's closers in there. There's some of our old favorites in there, like Whitmore, who has in the last 7 races either won or finished second. I'm always right there at the end. I used to think that he was much better at 6 furlongs than 7 furlongs, but he's proven he can get the extra 1/8 of a mile too. Matoli with all that speed, but this is his first try going 7 furlongs. Promises fulfilled. Returns from a 4th place finish in Dubai, and Warriors Club, who was second in the race last time and has been second in his last 2 races for Dwayne Lucas for that Churchill Downs Racing Club ownership thing. I give Warriors Club a nice shot in this race, and he's going to be my pick.
All right, Matt, good. Warriors Club, yeah, he got a wet track last year, and he just missed against Limousine Liberal in this race. So definitely a horse to watch out for. My top pick will be Whitmore, and I'm not sure about the far outside post, but he's got plenty of time to kind of ease his way in and get a good trip. I believe Castellano's on him out there. So basically my pick depends on the speed that I see being set up. Bobby's Wicked One has never been better. I'm not sure why he's 10-1 on the morning line, Promises Fulfilled didn't break well in Dubai, but obviously he has a ton of speed and is a very classy horse. And then Matoli, who knows how good Matoli is. Matoli's won on an off track before and really has looked good since his return as a 4-year-old. Uncontested could add speed as well. So I see a fast pace in here. I like betting against fast paces in 7 furlong sprints. So Whitmore's my top pick. I'm going to stick with that thought, though, and put Warriors Club, another horse who can rally, for second. Dushare is a horse who could get in there, but I think that last race was really set up for him and a little bit weaker. He would be the third horse I look to really rally big. Of the speed, I do respect Matoli and Promises Fulfilled a little bit more than Bobby's Wicked One, but they're all really good. So an interesting race. I'll go with the 6-year-old Gelding Whitmore as my top pick in there, man. And I'll tell you what, this two-day extravaganza, Oaks Derby weekend here at Churchill Downs is just filled with good horses, Matt. Let's go down the list a little bit. On Thursday, we'll see McKinsey, who I still think could be the best older dirt horse in the country. He's going to be running in the Ali Sheba on Thursday.
Yeah, McKenzie's back. McKenzie is looking for his first victory of the year. A couple of narrow defeats out there. The Ali Sheba is a 2-turn race. It's a 1.16 mile race. And frankly, Brian, I really believe that McKenzie is a much better horse going 1 turn, the 1-turn mile. The 7 furlongs, as we saw in the Malibu, and he faces some very good horses in this race. There's Seeking the Soul in there, Silver Dust, Copper Bullet. Instilled Regard is making the switch from a couple of tries on the turf back to the dirt. And, of course, McKenzie's only try at Churchill Downs came in the Breeders' Cup Classic last year when he didn't lift a foot. I think McKenzie is going to be a big favorite in here, and I think is a little bit vulnerable.
Yeah, I like McKenzie quite a bit more than you, Matt, and I really like his 1.25 mile race last time. So I think he's a horse that can run any distance. He's run well on a wet track before. Mike Smith up. I think he's ready to roll after 2 very good races, albeit in losing efforts out in California. You didn't mention Tom State Todd. I would have thrown him in as another horse who could get some money and as a nice horse in here. But I think it's a list of nice horses against a horse just a little bit too good. McKenzie will be a single for me on Thursday. Another potential single, Matt, could be found in the turf sprint. We both think World of Trouble could be a sprint champion this year. And he's such a nice horse because he's probably every bit as good on either surface, turf or dirt. He'll be in the turf sprint on Friday.
Yeah, Brian, that's for sure. He's a winner. You know, last out in the Carter at Aqueduct on that deep track stretching out to 7 furlongs, which may not be his best distance. He was an impressive winner that day, and of course last year in the Breeders' Cup on the Churchill Downs turf course, just narrowly missed in the turf sprint against the super talented Stormy Liberal. World of Trouble is Jason Service horse. Hey, this is another one who made his first start for Jason Service in the maiden claiming ranks like Maximum Security. And here he is burning up the track in the graded stakes races. Hey, Brian, if we see Service starting some maiden claimers, how about we go in and grab them?
There you go, Matt. That would be a smart investment. At least it would have been a smart investment the last couple of years. World of Trouble looks tough in here, folks. Bound for Nowhere is a nice turf sprinter for trainer Wesley Ward. He'll be the second choice. I think Undrafted is a horse. I've always liked Undrafted. He's an old warrior, but I think he's a horse that could rally into the picture in his first start of the year. Matt, speaking of top turf horses, we got to mention Newspaper of Record, also running Friday. She's in the Edgewood. She's spectacular in her 3 juvenile races last year. She's probably headed to Royal Ascot next, Matt. It'll be nice to see Newspaper of Record back at the races in the Edgewood.
It certainly will, and you can use every superlative you want. Spectacular, impressive, dominating in her in her three victories last year. Push button speed, the rider asks, and she's just gone from the competition. But that being said, Brian, this is not an easy field that she's facing in her comeback in there. There's just to throw a couple names out there. There's Cambier Park, who was a $1.25 million purchase for Larry Best, the owner of Instagram. When they moved her to the turf, she's 2 for 2 in there. And then there's another filly that I have so much respect for, and that's Concrete Rose, coming from the barn of Rusty Arnold. She's 3 for 4. She came back and had an impressive win in her 2019 debut. Her only loss was a 4th place finish in the Breeders' Cup. Of course, that was to Newspaper of Record. I'm not saying Newspaper Record is going to lose in here, but it's not a soft spot.
Agreed, Matt. This is a really nice 3-year-old filly turf race. Newspaper Record, if she gets a little bit of give to the turf course, there might be more rain on Saturday than Friday. So, but she's obviously handled wet turf before. That might even help her as well. I'm with you, though. Cambier Park, daughter of Sealy Hill, the Canadian Horse of the Year. Winter Sunset, you didn't mention, a really talented daughter trained by Wayne Catalano of Winter Memories. She's another one to watch in here, but I do like Concrete Rose as the second best or the biggest threat to Newspaper Record. I've liked her since I saw her maiden at Saratoga. She's a nice filly, but all eyes on Newspaper Record. See if we can send her to Ascot as an undefeated superstar from America. Matt, on Saturday, my top long shot, and I wrote about her a little bit, was going to be Got Stormy in the Distaff Turf Mile. I think she's 8-1 on the morning line, but I think she'll be higher than that. I think she really will be double digits. I love her making her 3rd start of the year. I love her dropping back to a mile, which is a distance she absolutely relishes. I do worry, though, if it's a real wet turf course that she might not like it as soft. So her only race on soft turf wasn't good. So take that into consideration, folks. If it's firm, if it's relatively firm, Got Stormy, super pick for me as a 12-15-1 shot. But if it's real wet, I'm going to only like her a little bit in there in the Distaff Turf Mile, and that's got a bunch of good horses as well, Matt.
Yeah, and when Zipsy gives out his long shot special, I always say it's time to listen. And some wacky things sure did happen last year at Churchill Downs with all that rain. Yeah,
Got Stormy again. Hopefully it won't be too wet for her. All right, one last horse I think we need to mention, Matt. That's a horse a lot of people, including I thought might be in the Kentucky Derby this year. Into Mischief's son, Instagram, the Larry Best-owned, Jerry Hollendorfer trained horse, ran tough 3rd in the Gotham and a tough 3rd in the Santa Anita Derby. Didn't get enough points to be in the Kentucky Derby, which is probably a good thing in a 1.25 miles. But in the Pat Day Mile, he's at a distance he should like 1 mile. But on the other hand, there's 13 other 3-year-olds in here.
There sure are, and it's one of those races, as you said, Brian, it's a race that's restricted to 3-year-olds. So the field has a mixture of horses that we saw on the Derby Trail. Names, for instance, that I know people liked at various times, like Mr. Money, like Manny Wah, and because they're coming off the Derby Trail, they're obviously cutting back in distance to the 1-turn mile, which is something that I believe will benefit those 2 horses in particular that I mentioned. I really haven't liked what I've seen from Instagram in his 2 starts this year, but on his side is that this field is not particularly loaded with speed. And I think if Instagram takes to the track and he should be able to get out to a lead and take control of the race.
Yeah, I think he's the class of the race. I have liked what I've seen from him this year more than you, Matt. Sometimes you don't have to win to be a nice horse, and I think those races he ran were good races and progressively good. I thought the Santa Anita Derby was better than the Gotham. I still believe in him. Probably a 1-turn horse, but I think this is a good spot, and I think he'll be okay on any type of surface, fast or wet. So he's the horse to beat for me. I do want to mention, though, there is a long shot in here I really do like. He'll probably be a bomb, too. I think he's 30-1 on the morning line. His name is Hog Creek Hustle. And Hog Creek Hustle, you mentioned Manny Wah. He's tangled with Manny Wah, and I think they've split decisions a few times. But Hog Creek Hustle makes a lot of sense in here because I do think it'll be a pretty fast pace in this one-turn mile. There is some speed in there for Instagram to deal with. Hog Creek Hustle likes to rally. I like him back at one turn. He's had some trouble. Now he gets a faster pace in here. And at 30-1, even if it's just second to Instagram or maybe even getting in the win, I think Hog Creek Hustle is a horse that I need on my tickets in the Pat Day Mile. All right, Matt, that's what we have for the next 2 days. We're both on Tacitus now. It was Omaha Beach and Tacitus. Now it's just Tacitus. So your HorseCenter hosts agree. Let me get a Kentucky Derby. This is our last episode before the Kentucky Derby, Matt. I don't know what we're going to do next week, but on the last episode before the Kentucky Derby, let me get a party shot from you, sir.
Yeah, folks. Again, I hope we don't have any more news about defections from big races, but no doubt with the potential rainy weather, there'll be scratches in there. But again, it's one of the biggest weekends of racing all year long. So find a good spot, find a dry spot to enjoy the racing, and good luck on all your wagers.
And we should always thank our sponsor, the best contest site out there, Derby Wars. We also need to thank our producer, Brett Workman, who's put in double duty this week for his HorseCenter host. So thank you, Brett. And thank you, folks, for watching us on HorseCenter. We wish you a great Derby. Happy Derby. Good luck on all your bets. We will be back, of course, next week talking about what happened in the Derby and starting to talk about the Preakness, which is only 2 weeks after the Kentucky Derby as we go down this Triple Crown trail. Also, we have to finish off a little bit more, Matt, because you gave us your favorite Kentucky Derby the last 20 years or this century. So this one was mine. It involved, I think, the best crop so far of the 21st century, and that's Street Sense beating Hard Spun and Curlin in the 2007 Kentucky Derby. Up the rail with Calvin Borel. We'll see you next week right here on HorseCenter.
All set. Off and running in Derby number 133. Fast start for Cowtown Cat to the front as Hard Spun flashing early speed now takes a short lead. Teufelsberg is moving up to the outside and tucking in. Sedgefield down at the fence now and quickly rushing up. There goes Stormello from the far outside. Passing the Twin Spires for the first time. Hard Spun setting the pace with a neck in front of Teufelsberg racing second. Cowtown Cat's in third. Stormello hung out 4 wide racing for Sedgefield's in the 5th spot. No Biz like Showbiz is racing in 6th by a half a length now, and he's flanked by Scat Daddy to the outside. Gap of 2 farther back now. Stormello has dropped back in the pack, but on the outside comes Any Given Saturday down along the inside fence. Liquidity about 8 lengths off the pace, and it's a gap of a couple farther back now to Dominican to the outside, a length and a half farther back down at the fence. There goes Sam P. about a dozen lengths off the pace. Curlin is next towards the back of the pack. Zanjero flanks him to the inside, followed up by Buona Bull. A couple farther back to Circular Key now is racing to the outside of Tiago. Length and a half back to Calvin Borel and Street Sense, and they're good 14 lengths off the lead. 2.5 back to Storm in May and a gap of 3. Farther back to I'm a Wild and Crazy Guy as they move around the far turn. 6 furlongs and 111 flat. It's Hard Spun and Mario Pino leading the way. Hard Spun is clear by a length and a half. Teufelsberg still there to the outside. Sedgefield's now up into the 2nd spot. They're followed up between horses by No Biz like Showbiz. Scat Daddy's on the far outside. Liquidity starting to make some headway now. From the back of the pack, Circular Key starts to come on. Tiago needs some racing room as they straighten away in the stretch drive. Here comes Calvin Borel and Street Sense, and they've kicked it into high gear down to the final furlong, and Street Sense goes right on by Hard Spun. Street Sense has taken over and opens up here. Street Sense by 2. Hard Spun racing in 2nd, but it's all Street Sense drawing away. Late charge from I'm a Wild and Crazy Guy. Street Sense and Calvin Borel impressively in Derby 133. Hard Spun ran 2nd. Curlin up for 3rd. I'm a Wild and Crazy Guy finished up 4th. The time 2:02 flat.